Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to conduct the next mock interview on this channel. If you are looking at the mock interview for the first time, let me quickly tell you what exactly we do. So I have a candidate with me who wants to evaluate his knowledge on UiPath. This is a mock interview where I am going to ask some of the question to him. He would be answering this question. At the end of the mock interview, I will be providing the feedback that what are the topics he needs to study and also the answer to the questions whichever he has answered incorrectly. In case you want to also have such mock interview with me, all you have to do is just drop me a note on the email ID which is mentioned in the video. Apart from that, there are a couple of other mock interviews which are available on the channel. This is a complete playlist where I have done 6 of the mock interviews. I will put the links in the descriptions and you can refer that. Having said that, let's get started. Hi Manas, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi,
Okay.
I'm Manas. I
Yeah.
have RPA developer. I have experience in RPA,
Mhm.
3 years.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I have done so many bot in
Mhm.
RPA
Mhm.
using UiPath. That one project is as SAP order creation.
Mhm.
Clients are sending the details in Outlook.
Okay.
Uh, the details are fetches and the website also given. We
Mhm.
are fetches the details in that particular website.
Mhm.
Finally we get the order, that order to be sent to the client. This is the one product I have done.
Okay.
Yes.
So before
Yes.
that, we jump into the question. So total, how many processes have you automated till date?
I have done one.
Okay. So in 3 years, you have done only one process.
And many so many projects I have done,
Okay.
like
Hmm.
PDF invoice extraction,
Okay.
um, likewise,
Mhm.
and data extraction in the website. We are extract the datas.
Mhm. Okay.
We are
Okay.
done that.
Okay. So you have done one full-fledged project and some small mini projects. Okay. And the one
Yes.
project which you are talking about, I believe that in the production. So have you made it live?
Actually, I have created the bot only,
Okay.
but production is not my thing.
Okay. Okay. And what is the correct current status of the project? Is it with the development, testing? Where exactly it is like?
It is in the testing. It is testing only.
Okay, this is in the testing. Okay,
Yes.
got it. So, if I have seen that you are getting some data from the Outlook, storing it in a shared drive, and then you are reading a file and opening some of the SAP application, doing something on the screen, and then getting the some kind of purchase number and sending back it to the client, right? So that is your
Yes.
overall
Yes.
information. Okay.
Yes.
Now, which activity in UiPath you have used to read the Outlook emails?
Get Outlook.
Okay, so you have used the get outlook. What is the
Uh,
output of get outlook?
Sorry.
So let's say if I use an activity which let's say read text, right? So I will get an output in a form of string. Similarly,
Okay.
if I use the get outlook mail messages, what is the output we get in UiPath?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, what is the output of get outlook mail message activity?
It will be read the uh, Outlook messages, like unread messages, like top 5 or 10. We are mentioned
Okay,
means
okay, okay. We will talk about the all those details at the end. So I'll give you the problem. So in the developer, let's say I am the developer, Mukesh is the developer. So I am storing the files in my C colon data. But when you move it to different machines or different drive, this path will change, right? So as of now, where are you getting this path to store this file? So you would be storing it somewhere, right?
Yes. Yes.
In the storage, right? So where is this path coming from?
In Google Drive.
Okay, so you are storing this thing in your Google Drive. Okay. Now,
Yes.
my next question, again, the obvious question would be, how do you connect UiPath to Google Drive? No issues. We'll talk about this feedbacks and all at the end, right? So,
Okay.
Now you say that you have done all of these things and you have stored everything. Let's say you have stored it in the Google Drive. That's okay if you don't remember the activities. Now when you say that you have to open some kind of application, as of now I just believing that this is a web or an SAP application. So whenever we work with any kind of application, there is something which is called the user ID and the password, right? That is called the credential. So where
Yes.
exactly in UiPath we should store the credential, or you are storing
Uh,
the credential?
we store the credential in assets in Orchestrator.
Okay, okay.
Um,
And when you store the credential in Orchestrator, that is perfectly correct. So I have created an asset in Orchestrator and I have stored my user ID and the password there. Now I have to read the credential in UiPath, right? So which activity I
yes.
will use to read the credential?
Um, get credential
Okay,
activity we
get.
are using.
And what would be the output of get credential?
It will read the values in from the orchestrator. It
Okay.
will store the variable.
Okay, and what value I will get as an output? So in UiPath, what will I get in the form of output?
Um, like
So every activity in UiPath has something which is called input and output, right? So
yes,
what is the output of get credential activity?
it
Okay.
will store the username
Uh,
password like the string.
okay, it will store the username and password as the string. Okay,
Yes, yes.
okay, okay, fine, got it. Now, when we are talking about the asset, can you tell me how many kinds of assets I can have in UiPath?
There are four types of string,
Okay.
integer,
Mm-hmm.
boolean.
Mm-hmm.
Final one is credential.
Okay. And what values goes in the Boolean part?
Uh, it is take it as true or false.
Okay. 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 So I see that you have also mentioned that you have done something with process analysis, and you have written that you have done as is versus to be analysis, right? So now can you explain me what is difference between a as is versus to be?
Assess. Assess.
As is versus to be. So in your resume I can see that you have mentioned that you have done various solution approaches using as is versus to be, right? So what is that as is versus to be you have done? Okay, so in the roles and responsibility I was going through. Okay,
Okay.
okay. So okay, no issues. If you are not aware, that is not a problem. We'll
Okay.
talk about all of this in a later. Now whatever bot you have created, are those attended bot or are those unattended bots?
Um, attended bot.
Okay, attended bot, right? So that means there would be a human who would have to execute the process manually, right? Input. So let's say you have created an automation, I believe this one, where you are supposed to the user is supposed to give some input to the robot. Now let's say when the user is giving some input to the robot, the user, instead of let's say you ask the user to give the first name, and the user is inserting a phone number. A user is there, right? A human user, he can do anything. So have
Okay.
you considered such kind of scenarios while developing this robot?
We are using exception handling for those
Okay,
these scenarios.
okay.
Uh, while it is if you are getting any error means it go to catch.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, otherwise it go to next activity. It to be proceed.
Okay, okay. So there is something which is called delay, and then there is something which is called timeout. So
Yes.
can you tell me the difference between a delay and the timeout in context of the UI elements? So user interface, and
Uh,
let's say click activity, right? What is the difference between delay and a timeout?
okay. Timeout we can send it like particularly like 30 seconds means we can send uh, 30,000 it
Okay.
we are mentioned, but
Mm-hmm.
delay we can like minutes, hours, minutes, seconds we can mention that likewise.
Okay. And how they will behave? So let's say if I put a delay of 5 minutes and a timeout of 30 seconds. So what would be the behavior?
Both in parallel or
Okay, both will work in parallel. Okay,
okay.
so uh, now tell me, when you have done this automation, you would have faced some challenges, right? Can you tell me what challenges have you faced during the implementation of any of the project for that matter?
Yes, we are face one challenges in using in selectors. We can faces the error.
Okay, and how did you mitigate that risk of selector?
We are solution for that. We can use find element,
Okay.
uh, find element, and or else anchor base.
Mm-hmm.
Can use it. We can use
Okay.
that solution.
Okay. Okay. So this process, what you have mentioned, so this is an attended process. So have you used any kind of framework to develop this automation, or is it
Uh,
just, yeah?
yeah, we are using RE framework.
Okay. So you are using RE framework to develop this solution, right? So when you say RE framework, how many states I can have in RE framework, or I do have in RE framework, the default one?
There are four states. One is initialization,
Mm-hmm.
get transaction data, process data, final earnings in process.
Okay. And let's say if I get a system exception while doing the initialization, what happens to the process?
It go to end process.
Okay, it will go to the end process. Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Now, see that you have told me that this is an attended robot, right? What was the
Yes.
need of using RE framework here? Why have you used RE framework? I do not see this process is a transactional process, right? It is a straightforward process. The user go downloads the data, put it in some folder, and then upload in some website. Why exactly we require RE framework here?
It is like same exception handling.
Okay.
Uh, it is useful to the client. We are getting any error means it easily they are find out.
Okay, okay. And so this is a linear process or this is a transactional process?
A linear process.
Okay, so when you say this is a linear process and you have used RE framework, so you would have made some changes to the RE framework to make it linear, right? Because the default RE framework work on the transaction. So what changes? I don't want to know the every detail. What changes have you made in the RE framework to make this thing a linear thing? So where exactly have you made the changes?
Um, just we are using RE framework in the UI path.
Okay.
Uh, then do the activity in the process of try catch one block only. We are done.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So now tell me one thing. So you have seen that one of your project you have mentioned that you have worked on SAP also, right? Which
Yes.
activity or which activity pack I require to use in UiPath to connect it with SAP? So for example, if I give you example, let's say I have to use Excel, so I would have to use the Excel dependencies UiPath.excel.activities. Something is there, right? So if you have to use SAP, you would have to use some kind of activities pack or anything, right, in your automation.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, what is that activity pack?
Actually, it is like a website only. Just we
Okay.
can use a open browser.
Mm-hmm.
We have mentioned that link only.
Okay, so SAP application you are opening in the web browser. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now tell me one thing. Do you understand triggers in Orchestrator? What is a trigger?
Uh, Triggers we can it is like present in orchestrator. We can
Mm-hmm.
schedule each and every minute or hour,
Mm-hmm.
like weekly based. We can schedule our bot.
Okay. And how many types of triggers I can have? Okay.
Triggers type
No
I don't
issues.
know.
No issues. No issues. Okay. So as of now, let's say you have completed the code in your machine. You have done your testing. It is working on your UiPath Studio. Now there is a requirement that you have to publish this code to the testing orchestrator. So how would you do that?
Okay, while we have completed our bot, we
Mm-hmm.
can publish the bot in
Mm-hmm.
using publish in the debug.
Okay.
After that, it will go to the uh, orchestrator.
Okay.
It's like created as a package, a new pkg from
Mm-hmm.
packages.
Okay.
Then after we connected our orchestrator is
Mm-hmm.
connected means it go to created package a new pkg. After
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's like a process, it will generated our whatever published name,
Mm-hmm.
it go to the processed. If you want to start means you can start the job in process, or else we can start the job in in the job also.
Okay. Now, so this would be your development orchestrator, right? Now
Yes.
I have to move this from development orchestrator to the testing orchestrator. How do I do that?
Okay.
Or how would you are doing in your current role, right? So you say that your project is in the testing phase. So how that nugget has moved from development orchestrator to the testing orchestrator?
Actually, I'm done only this development code only.
Okay. Okay. No issues. No issues. So have you got any experience on Excel automations?
Yes.
Okay. What is the difference between Excel and workbook activities?
Yes, we can use Excel, or Excel means we can use a Excel application scope.
Mm-hmm.
While we are using workbook means we did not use Excel application scope.
Mm-hmm. So what is the
While
difference
using
between two?
yes, Excel means we can mandatory install the Excel, but
Mm-hmm.
while using a workbook means it is not, no, don't do not need the mandatory install the Excel.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
And let's say when you read the Excel, so we have an activity which is called read range, right?
yes,
So
yes,
what, when I read the Excel, what is the output I get in the UiPath?
data table.
Okay, I get a data table. Perfect. Okay, so I can see that you have worked on many small POCs and all, and you say that you have worked on some POCs for PDF also. Okay, so in
Yes.
UiPath, what activity I use to read the PDF?
uh, Read PDF text
Okay, read PDF text.
activity, you can
And
read that.
okay, and let's say if my PDF is having images, okay, the text is not selectable. So let's say it is in an image format. So how can I read a PDF which is having in, kind of a image embedded text?
We can use the activity as a read OCR text. If
Okay,
you
read
read the
PDF with
scanned image.
OCR. Okay, scanned images actually I means. Okay, so you would use read PDF with OCRs. Okay.
Yes.
Now, when you are working with an UiPath, so there is always something which is called variables and arguments. I want you to tell me what are the kind of arguments I can have in UiPath.
There are three types of argument:
Mm-hmm.
in, out,
Mm-hmm.
and final one is in or out.
Okay. Okay, and that is good. So my last question to you would be, what is the
Yes.
difference between a full selector and a partial selector?
It's full selector is the example as basic recording.
Mm-hmm.
Partial selector is the example as desktop recording.
Mm-hmm.
uh, Full selector as it is like a we can switch we can only
Mm-hmm.
we can switch particular like a website Excel, we can switch over many things, but we are using partial means
Mm-hmm.
sorry full
Okay.
selector. Okay.
Okay, no issues. So, my sorry, I just told last question. So I am asking one more question. So,
Okay.
where do you store your code? Where are you storing your code in UiPath? So let's say today you completed the development, right? Where exactly are we storing the code?
like where
So
it
we
is the
would have
UI
to
path.
store code, right? Because uh, let's say today you are working on some code piece and you go home, right? So tomorrow you when you come back, your machine get crashed. So your entire
Yes,
automation will be lost, right? So where exactly you will we will store the code in UiPath?
yes, in my system I have stored my code in documents
Okay,
because I have installed UiPath in the document, so it will source
okay,
code is present in documents.
okay, okay. Got it. No issues there. Okay, so Manas, I am done with my questions. Before I go to your feedback, do you have any questions for me?
Um, yeah, sure, nothing.
Okay, so let me tell you something on the feedback, right? So, first thing, when you say that you have done small processes and you have done only one project, the number does not matters. Okay, whatever project you have, you are mentioning, right? It should be complete. When I say, it is not necessary to be goes in the production, but at least you should, whenever you are explaining a project, right, you have to tell from three point of view that what is the problem statement. Okay, how
Okay,
you have developed the automation and what is the current stage of the development, and once you have developed the project, what exactly are you getting the benefit. And you would have to always tell about whether this is an attended unattended, because you are explaining this thing to a interviewer or to a person who have never seen your project. You are working on the project on daily basis, so you understand, but for a third person you will have to explain your project a little bit more. You have to be more expressive while explaining your project. Okay, that is one
okay,
thing. Now when you say that you have used an activity which is called to read the emails, right? So
yes,
read the emails will give you list of mail messages. Okay,
yes, yes.
it won't be a filter read everything. Those are unread emails. Those are all the filters which we have to apply. Okay, so
Okay,
get Outlook mail message will give you list of mail messages. So what I want you to do is, when we come up and we go and end this interview, I want you to go back and go to each and every activity in your project and see the input and the output.
okay,
Okay, now I asked you a simple question that where are you storing the paths, right? So you told me that you are storing the path in Google Drive. That is okay. If you are storing it in a Google Drive, I have no issues in it, right? But at least when you say that you are storing in the Google Drive, you should know the activities, how you will connect to Google Drive, where you can store. A better way of storing the paths would be the configuration file, because you are already using the RE framework. So you can always store the paths in the configuration file. That is the purpose of config file in the RE framework, that the things which change are getting stored in the config file. Okay,
okay, okay,
now I ask you a question which says, where do you store the assets? So the answer was correct. It is correctly stored in the credential asset. We store the credential in the orchestrator, right? And that we put the user ID and the password. This answer was correct and you gave it me correct. But what you mentioned me wrong, that what is the output? So when you read the password from UiPath, you will get a username and the password. So username will be string and the password would be a secure text. Okay, it
okay,
should not be a string, because if otherwise, if it is always giving you a string, so that means you would be able to see the password. Password is meant to be secured. That is why UiPath get credential activity will give you string as an username and password in the form of secure text. Okay, so again the same
okay,
thing, whenever you go, just go and read about the C. So you don't have to read, you have to check that what is the input and what is the output you are getting. Okay,
okay,
now there was one question which you answered me wrong, was the timeout and the delays. Okay, so every UI automation activity has some properties in common. Let's say continue on error, delay and timeout. I have a dedicated video made on it, but I will quickly tell you the difference. Okay, so the timeout is the default value. The default value of the timeout is 30 seconds. That means the selector will wait only for 30 seconds to appear. So you always, as a developer, you have an option to change this timeout from 30 seconds to, you can increase it and you can decrease it also. But what exactly is a timeout? So timeout is the time where, till that time, so let's say you change the timeout to 1 minute, that means UiPath will wait for 1 minute to appear that element on the screen. That is timeout. Now what is delay? Delay is something that comes in two flavors when we talk about UI automation: delay before, delay after. So delay before means when UiPath is going to that selector, it will wait for the time which you have mentioned, delay before. Delay after means once the operation is performed, it will wait that amount of time. So that is the difference between timeout and delays. Okay, that
Okay.
was one thing. Exceptional handling, you told me something correctly, but I was not convinced. Whenever you are saying that you have faced real time challenges, your real time challenges should be as per the project. You should be able to give me what was the problem, how did you fix it. Okay, so that is one thing which you need to work upon. Now, RE framework, you answered me the question correctly that you are having 4 stages. If there is an exception in the init, we go to end process. But what
Okay.
you were not able to answer me, that how do you make the process linear? Because by default, the RE framework is meant to be for the transactional process. That means when you have multiple transaction, let's say 10 tickets, 15 ticket, 100 tickets, and you loop one item one by one by one. But when you say
Yes.
you are having a linear process, that means your process will execute only once. So you would, as a developer, have to make some changes to the default RE framework. So you go and learn what changes you need to do to make a RE framework for linear process. I also have a video for this one. I will send you the link and you can refer that. Triggers is very important, and you have told me about the triggers, but you are not able to tell me how many kinds of triggers are there. Okay,
Okay.
so there are two
Okay.
kind of
Cron
triggers.
also, right?
Yeah, no, no,
Cron.
there are only two kind of triggers. One is the time trigger and another is the queue trigger. Okay, so
Okay.
time
Okay.
trigger is where you have the fixed time schedule like minutes, hour, second, yearly, and in the time trigger only you have an option of cron scheduling. Okay,
Okay.
and then there is one more kind of trigger which is called a queue trigger. I will share you a link on this one also, and you can refer, and that will clear your doubts. Okay,
Okay.
deployment. When it comes to the deployment, right, at the beginning I ask you that how is your deployment happening. So you should not tell that I don't know, right? Because you are working for a project. Okay, I understand that you may not have done it directly, but at least you should be aware of that, how that nugget is moving from development to the testing environment. You should never say that I don't know, because that is not my part. That is an
Okay.
absolute no no. I
Okay.
understand that is your not your job to do it, but as a developer, you should be aware of the kind of practices, the kind of approach your company or the project is doing to move the to do the deployment. Okay,
Okay.
full versus partial selector, again you gave me an answer correctly that one is basic, one is full. But again, full selector and the partial selector, the major difference was that full selector will give you the parent window and the partial selector will give you a container, right?
Yes.
So your answer was 80% correct, but I believe that your concepts are not very much clear, that how exactly these things are working, right? So you can just read about the full and the partial selector also.
Yes.
Now, and very important question which I ask at the last, that where do you store the code? So you
Yes.
will always store the code in the source repository. Okay.
Okay.
UiPath
Okay.
is by default integrated to Git, SVN, and TFS. That means that are the source repository where you are going to store the code. Okay. So when you go back, just read about the code source repository. No developer or no one is going to store the code in their local machine. Reason being,
Okay.
if your local machine is getting crashed, your code is
Okay.
lost, right? So basically the idea is to store it at the remote location or a remote repository. UiPath has integration with SVN, TFS, and Git, so you can try and explore these things. Git, you can always try it for free on the community edition also. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
so that was all your feedback. Thank you for appearing, and then I will share you those links. Okay, so that is all for this video. I would like to wrap this video here. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please do subscribe to the channel, and happy automation.